Lesson 3, I will express metric capacity measurements in terms of a smaller unit. So today we're going to be talking about metric capacity, which means we're talking about metric units, but we're talking about liquid measurements. So we're talking about liters and milliliters today. All right, so let's take a look at our problem set. I want you to go ahead and write your name at the top. And then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this conversion table. I'd like for you to go ahead and try to do this conversion table by yourself. This is pretty similar to what you've been doing in lesson 1 and in lesson 2. Okay, so you can see once I knew that 1 liter was equal to 1,000 milliliters, then I could go ahead and convert from liters to milliliters or from milliliters to liters. Again, this is pretty much like place value, thinking of liters as thousands and as milliliters as thousands, but in standard form, and this is sort of like thousands in unit form. Okay, so let's take a look at the rest of this problem set. And now we're going to do a little bit more conversion, but we're going to do a little bit of mixed converting. So if I've got 2 liters and 500 milliliters, well, if I know that 2 liters is equal to 2,000 milliliters, then this will be equal to 2,500 milliliters. All right, so if I have 70 liters, 850 milliliters, that would be 70,850 milliliters. Now, here's where some kids could get tripped up. You have to remember that this is 33,000. If this is 33,015, I have to put a 0 here. If not, I don't have a real number. My comma's in a weird spot. I want you to go ahead and try to do D, E, and F by yourself, and then let's come back and check together. All right, so let's take a look at D. So 2 liters, 8 milliliters was the same thing as 2,008 milliliters. 3,812 milliliters was the same thing as 3 liters, 812 milliliters. And then for F, I had 86 liters and 3 milliliters. All right, let's take a look at some algorithm or some addition and subtraction problems using milliliters and liters. So in A, you can see that I'm adding milliliters and liters. When you were doing the Zern lesson, you saw that there are more than one way to solve these problems. If you choose to solve your problem in a different way, just like in the Zern video, that is perfectly okay. I'm not going to go through all 3 separate ways that you can solve this problem. I'm going to choose the one that I think most students will use. But remember, if you have a different strategy that gets you the correct answer almost every time, then that's a perfectly fine strategy. So for A, I'm going to convert the liters to milliliters like this. So I'm going to have 1,760 milliliters. And then I'm going to take the 40 liters and convert that to 40,000 milliliters. And then I'm going to use the addition algorithm and I'm going to add. So because this is pretty quick, we'll just go ahead and do it together. There's no bundling or regrouping here. So that gives me 41,760 milliliters or 41 liters, 760 milliliters. For B, I'm going to use the same strategy. I'm going to take these 7 liters and I'm going to convert them to 7,000 milliliters. And I'm going to subtract 3,400 milliliters. So I'm going to use the subtraction algorithm. I want you to go ahead and subtract this problem and then let's come back and see if we get the same difference. Okay, so hopefully you got 3,600 milliliters or 3 liters, 600 milliliters. Now for C, you can see that it says express the answer in the smaller unit. So which would be smaller, liters or milliliters? Well, in this case, it would be milliliters. So it's asking you in C and D to put your answer in terms of milliliters. So we will have to convert to milliliters to be able to get the answer correct. So for C, I've got 25 liters, 478 milliliters. So that would be 25,478 milliliters plus 3,812 milliliters. So let's go ahead and find the sum here. And then I'd like for you to go ahead and try to do D by yourself. And then let's come back and check C and D together before you go on to E and F. All right, so for C, once you added, you should have got 29,200 290 milliliters. And then for D, the first thing you should have done is change 21 liters to 21,000 milliliters, and then 2 liters, 8 milliliters to 2,008 milliliters. And then you had to do some decomposing here to be able to subtract in the ones, and then you should have got a difference of 18,992 milliliters. So now for E and F, our directions are a little different because it says express the answer in mixed units. So that means that we have to express our answer in terms of liters and milliliters. All right, so I'm still going to convert everything to milliliters, and then I'll just convert my answer back to liters and milliliters. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and change this to 7,425 milliliters, and then I'm going to subtract 547 milliliters. So let's go ahead and find the difference here. I cannot subtract in the ones, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to decompose a 10 so that I have 15 ones. I'm not ready to subtract in the tens, so I'm going to decompose 100, and that gives me 11 tens. I cannot subtract in the hundreds, so I'm going to decompose 1,000, and now I have 13 hundreds. I hope that you can see that. It's kind of getting a little crowded. All right, so now let's go ahead and subtract. I have 8, 7, and that's a 13 minus 5, which is 8. And then I have 6,878 milliliters. But it says I have to express my answer in mixed units. So that would be equal to 6 liters, 878 milliliters. All right, I want you to try to do the same thing for F. And then let's see what answer you get. If you get stuck, you can always press play. But I'd like for you to try to do it all by yourself, and let's see how far you can get. Okay, so I converted 31 liters, 433 milliliters to 31,433 milliliters, and 12 liters, 876 milliliters to 12,876 milliliters. Now I changed over to red here because it started to get bundled up, and instead of erasing and moving it down, I just used red so that hopefully we could see. So I had to do quite a bit of debundling here, or decomposing, so that I was able to subtract, but I got my final answer to be 18,557 milliliters, which equals 18 liters, 557 milliliters. All right, so on the back here we have some application problems. And you can see the directions say use a tape diagram to model each problem, solve using a simplifying strategy or an algorithm, and write your answer as a statement. So obviously we're going to read the problem. This is our draw. We're going to draw a tape diagram. We're going to write either a simplifying strategy or an algorithm. That's our number sentence. And then we're going to write our answer as a statement. That's going to be our answer statement. So we are going to be using read, draw, write, and write. To make fruit punch, John's mother combined 3,500 milliliters of tropical drink, 3 liters 95 milliliters of ginger ale, and 1 liter 600 milliliters of pineapple juice. Order the quantity of each drink from least to greatest. Okay, so for this, we're not going to need to do a tape diagram. We're just going to order them from least to greatest. So first of all, you can see I have milliliters, and then I have liters and milliliters, liters and milliliters. I think I'm going to go ahead and change this to liters and milliliters just to help me. So 3,500 milliliters is the same thing as 3 liters, 500 milliliters. So my largest place value here is going to be liters. I have 3 liters and 3 liters, and here I have 1 liter. So which would be the smallest? Well, 1 liter, 600 milliliters would be the smallest. Now I'm comparing 3 liters, which is the same, so I've got 500 milliliters and 95 milliliters. Well, since 95 is less than 500, 3 liters, 95 milliliters would come next, and then 3 liters, 500 milliliters would be last. Now it wants to know how much punch did John's mother make. So now here's where we're going to need to draw our tape diagram. So it wants to know the total. So I'm trying to figure out this, my total. I'm going to go ahead and label that P for punch. So I know that she had 3,500 milliliters tropical drink, and then we had 3 liters, 95 milliliters ginger ale, and 1 liter, 600 milliliters of pineapple juice. And we want to know the total. So if I know the part, but I want to know the total, what am I going to do to my three parts? Well, I'm going to add them together. I'd like for you to go ahead and solve the rest of this problem by yourself. I want you to write your addition sentence and then write your answer as a statement, and then let's come back and check. If you get stuck, you can always press play. Okay, so over here you can see this is my addition sentence, and I went ahead and converted everything to milliliters and added it together. I got a sum of 8,195 milliliters, which is equal to 8 liters, 195 milliliters, and then I went ahead and wrote my answer as a statement. How much punch did John's mother make? John's mother made 8 liters, 195 milliliters of punch. Okay, let's take a look at 5. A family drank 1 liter, 210 milliliters of milk at breakfast. If there were 3 liters of milk before breakfast, how much milk is left? So I'm going to go ahead and draw my tape diagram. Let's think about this. Do we know the total? Well, we know that there were a total of 3 liters before breakfast. That's going to be our total. And we know that the family drank 1 liter, 210 milliliters at breakfast, and we're trying to figure out how much milk was left. I'm going to go ahead and use M as my variable. So if I know the total and I know a part, what am I going to do to find the missing part? I'm going to use subtraction, right? So I want you to go ahead and solve the rest of this problem using whatever strategy you want to. I think I'm going to use a subtraction algorithm, and then I want you to write your answer as a statement. Okay, so whenever I used my subtraction algorithm, I had to decompose to be able to subtract in the tens place, and I ended up with a difference of 2,790 milliliters, which is equal to 2 liters, 790 milliliters. So how much milk is left? 2 liters, 790 milliliters of milk was left. All right, so Petra's fish tank contains 9 liters, 578 milliliters of water. If the capacity of the tank is 12 liters, 455 milliliters of water, how many more milliliters of water does she need to fill the tank? So first of all, we have to understand what capacity means. If the capacity of this fish tank is 12 liters and 455 milliliters, that means that's how much water this fish tank can hold altogether. And we know that this is how much water is in the fish tank, and we want to know how much more does she need to fill the tank. I'd like for you to try to do this whole problem by yourself. I'd like for you to go ahead and try to set up the tape diagram and solve it and see what you get. The worst thing that can happen is you get it wrong. Please don't sit for 5 to 10 minutes trying to figure it out. If you get stuck, go ahead and press play, but let's see how much you can do all by yourself. Okay, so you can see I went ahead and set up my tape diagram, and I used 12 liters, 455 milliliters as my total, because this is how much the fish tank can hold. This is how much water's in there, and I use W as my variable. This is what I'm trying to figure out, how much more water. Well, when I know the total, and I know part, but I'm missing a part, I have to use subtraction to figure out the missing part. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to 12,455 milliliters, and then I'm going to subtract 9,578 milliliters and see what the difference is. So I'm not ready to subtract in the ones, so I'm going to decompose a 10, and that leaves 4 tens and 15 ones. Now I'm not ready to subtract in the tens, so I'm going to decompose 100, and that leaves 14 tens. I'm not ready to subtract in the hundreds, so I'm going to decompose 1,000. Now I have 13 hundreds, and again I cannot subtract in 1,000, so I'm going to decompose a 10,000, and that leaves 11 thousands. So we had to decompose in every single place. So now I have 7, 8, and 2. That's 2,877 milliliters, which is the same as 2 liters, 877 milliliters. So how many more milliliters of water does she need to fill the tank? So Petra, which is the she, Petra needs 2 liters, 877 milliliters more water to fill the tank. So today we worked on converting, adding, and subtracting liters and milliliters, which is called metric capacity. Capacity is when you're talking about liquid measurements.